All right, what do we got going on, guys? Joey here. Today, we're going to be talking about some squats. I wanted to talk about two things. One, are squats good for building the legs and how that relates to powerlifting? And two, for whatever reason, people have this thing about squatting more than you deadlift. I don't know why this is a thing. I don't know where this came from. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Let's go in reverse order. So the first squat problem or topic at hand. When I think about this, I think this comes from just the majority of people having a pretty good squat. Their bench is whatever their bench is going to be, and then most people are going to deadlift more than they squat, right? Why is this? A lot of different reasons. Obviously, leverages could be typically if you're of a certain size, it's going to be easier for you to pick something up off the ground than it is to put it on your back and squat it. A lot of it is, and the reverse, right? How many people are bigger weight classes where they're going to be able to squat more weight because weight moves weight. Squat is it's a lift where you're able to sort of compress into yourself. So if you're a bigger person, you can get a little bit of a boost from that. Whereas if you are pulling, conventional, especially, you're just kind of wedging and levering the weight up, and being bigger doesn't necessarily help you there. And I think just for like what most people are that are attempting to do powerlifting, they're probably not gonna squat more than they deadlift. And I think early on, that was just so common. People just sort of saw it as the norm. But then over time, as the sport sort of progresses, you start to see people that got really, really good at squatting. And I mean, powerlifting is going to tend to bring out the best in whatever the discipline is. So you're going to see like more examples. I still think people deadlift more than they squat most of the time, but I think we're going to see the best squatters in the world, right, at the highest levels, and people are going to focus on those people, and it's going to make them wonder, like, oh, like, what does it mean if I squat more than I deadlift, right? Now, obviously, strategically for a meet, if you're the last deadlifter and you squat more than your deadlift, it doesn't really matter. You're still getting the benefit of pulling last, and that's an incredible. I mean, you win the meet pretty much if you could pull that off, right? If you could pull last and have the biggest squat, it's over, right? But I think that it doesn't really mean anything. It's not a big deal. It's literally a non-issue. It is actually a non-issue. Could it mean that you probably need to practice deadlifting a little bit more? Maybe. I mean, I think if you have like really big legs and your legs are very strong and you squat a lot and you have like leverage issues with your legs kind of rubbing into the bar, it's okay, right? Everybody, you don't get to choose what you're good at. I didn't choose to be a good squatter. I didn't choose to be a decent bencher. I didn't choose to be a not good deadlifter, right? I did not choose those things. These are the things that I sort of was born with, or once I started training, just what was expressed. And I think that when I know that when I embraced what I was good at and what I was not good at and just treated it for what it was and tried to improve and not really like let the lagging lift like mess with me, then everything was able to improve, because regardless of what the number is, if you're doing the right things and you're progressing and moving in the right direction, why does it matter? It's like, what if you bench more than you squat? That's pretty crazy, or close to your squat. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't mean anything. So I don't know why this is a thing. It's not an issue. I literally have no idea where it comes from, but yeah, it's not that big. It's really not a big deal at all. It's literally a non-thing, but I get asked about it all the time, and it's just like crazy. So I had to bring it up. The next thing I wanted to talk about is, are squats a good movement for the legs? Now, I will say this about squatting, right? I think people just think squat and quads because it's like the thing that's in front of you. You see the knees bending, you think quads, right? You see them coming up out of the hole and their knees sort of coming in or going out and shaking or whatever, and people think, you know, like, oh, big legs, big squat, right? Now, I think that the squat, depending on how you squat, your footing, your leverages, many different things. The powerlifting back squat, yes, you're using your legs, using your glutes, using your hips, using your knees, everything, using your torso to stabilize, all that stuff. You are using your legs, and your prime movers are, you know, in your lower body, but specifically for the quads and some parts of your leg, I don't think squat is the best movement. And the reason for that, I think squat is going to build kind of everything. It's going to hit a little bit of everything. It's going to hit maybe your mid quad, maybe your VMO a little bit. Maybe it's going to hit your adductors if you squat wide. You're going to hit some glutes, or you're going to hit a little bit of hamstrings. You're going to hit all these little different areas, but you're not really going to focus on any one thing, right? Now, there are things that you can do with a squat to focus certain areas. For example, if you want to hit more quads, you're going to move the bar higher. You can do a front rack position, so you can do front squats. You can put the bar in your traps. You can put heels on. You can narrow your stance, and you can really think mentally to bias your knees forward. That's going to hit more quads. You're still going to work some back. You're still going to work some of those other muscles I mentioned, but more or less depending on your stance. Now, if you want to hit more hips, you're going to go in flats. You're going to go a little bit wider. You're going to lower the bar in your back, and that's going to help work that. If you want to hit a little bit of everything and just lift the most amount of weight possible, you're going to find a healthy medium, but you want to kind of bias towards what you as an individual are best at. So let's say you have, okay, let's use John Hack. He's a great example. If you guys know, I worked with John for 2 years almost, 2015 to 2017. And John was a very different kind of squatter. He had the bar in sort of a mid-bar position, and he was like super upright, and his quads were like so overpowering, and he had really good ankle flexibility that he would always just squat like super vertical with like barely any, you know, hinging going on, and just straight down, straight up, knees would go forward, and he was like strong enough to make that work. And that is what he was good at. And when way back when, you know, 10 years ago, when I'm working with John, when I see him squatting, I'm thinking to myself, this guy is so good with this not so common technique that I'm not even gonna mess with it, because he's already way above average, and I don't wanna like try to completely change everything about the way that he's training to maybe possibly make him better in another stance. But if he's already like a natural at something so different, I wanna embrace that. I wanna embrace that individuality. I wanna embrace his strengths, and we wanna complement and support that with how we build his program, and not so much you have to do things one way, you have to do things this way. Now, most people, they're gonna kind of just they're not really gonna show you out the gate what they're super strong at. Maybe they just, you know, they're just kind of an average squatter. Their quads aren't really overpowering like John's were or anything. And it kind of is what it is, and you just got to build them all around, and they're gonna have a more generic low bar squat. But there are gonna be people, and this is something that I've learned just working with so many different types of people. If you guys look at all the world champions I've worked with, like look at all their different, like look at them. Like they're so different. Like everybody is so different from the next person, right? In many ways, and everybody's got their strengths. Everybody, you know, I will say my world record squatters have similar things in common. Not everything, but they have similar things in common. Big benchers, some similar things in common. Big deadlifters, they're gonna be different, right? It's you gotta just look at the person for what they are, and sort of accept them for what they are and build around that. But squats are for squats and to make squats better. Now, if you find that for you specifically, squatting is helping a specific muscle group grow that you want for it to grow, then yeah, squats can be a good movement. But when I was doing hack squats and leg press with specific feet positioning and certain pendulum machines, my quads specifically were bigger than when I was like squatting my heaviest. There are certain aspects of, I'm very confident that's the case, because I could just hit them so much better. You get more range of motion. with certain things and the weight distribution and how you're sort of able to, I could squat, you know, at the time like 585 for a set of 8, and I wouldn't really feel it at any particular spot, maybe my adductors and my glutes a little bit, with that big weight, right? Or I could put 2 plates on the hack squat on each side and just do it with the tempo, and I would be like screaming, like I would be dying, my legs would be burning. Very, very, very small movement, and to get such a stimulation in that specific muscle. So I don't think squats are the best movement specifically for your quads. I think it's gonna generally build you all over. Yeah, it's gonna build you all over the place, but it's not gonna like, unless you kind of design the squat, like I said, you could bring in the narrow stance, you can go a little bit wider, adjust it however you want to bias certain muscle groups. And this plays in part when it comes to assigning accessories as well. Then yes, it could help. And the reason why, like let's say, yes, the hack squat is a great, it's a great quad movement, right? It comes at a cost. If we're in the off season and we want to do some squatting and do a lot of accessories to build general size, one, there's no guarantee that size is going to carry over into our comp lifts and make us better. It could a little bit, no guarantee. It is going to come at a cost. It is going to come at a sort of tax to the system. You are going to have to pay the price if you're doing a top single and 2 sets, you know, back downs on your squat, and then you're gonna go do 5 sets of 12 on the hack squat. That is gonna tax you more than your squats did. That is gonna require payment in the form of rest and recovery. And that could be the goal. You're gonna have a lot of noise. It could be called noise during your training. You're gonna have a lot of fatigue. You're gonna go into your squats and be like, dang, why am I so taxed right now? I only did this on squat. Well, it's because you're blasting your accessories, right? There is a big cost to doing those heavy compound leg movements, and you have to understand how they can affect your progressions, affect your top sets, affect your weights, right? Again, there has to be like context, right? So if I have a lifter who's 20 weeks out, from week 20 to 17, 16, we can hit all those things. We can make sure that we're technically proficient in the comp lifts, and we can spend a little bit more time working on hypertrophy or building muscle or hitting other things. No problem. Maybe we cut that into 16 to 13 weeks out, something like that. But once we start getting closer to the meet, once we're about 12 weeks out, I'm taking out the noise. I want good progressions. I want good predictable training. If I'm pacing them, I want to pace them how I want to pace them. And I don't want these other factors in there to kind of mess things up. Now, using other types of squats to benefit your comp squat, so like you're not using a big machine, you're just using like a high bar squat or a front squat, can be super extremely, you know, useful. But then you have to understand that the goal is not to have big legs. The goal is to help build your squat through biasing certain parts of your leg that you're not good at. I'll use one example. One of my newer, younger lifters from Sweden, I had him work a lot of high bar tempo, and what that does is it really helps him sort of learn to just squat. Like really, it was just kind of teaching him how to squat correctly, but with the high bar, so he has a little bit more range of motion. He's going to be able to get his knees forward and hit proper depth. Yeah, that's it. Now his low bar looks completely different from adding those in, and that's an example of biasing certain muscles, sort of changing certain positions to kind of get a different result. But that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. But yeah, that's it for squats. See ya. Ugh.